Hey everyone, so this is Harrow season 3, episode 6, called Name Piero Gladium, or Don't Give a Sword to a Boy. So essentially, the case of the week is where a 19-year-old kid named um, Miles Finney is found dead floating in a pool. And let's see, he had some initially, Harrow and Nichols are thinking that it's having to deal with this property manager of the apartments that Miles is living in, named Terry. Terry had apparently taken Miles's bank card um, from him when he first moved into the apartment, and uh, was using his um, he was using his bank card to not only pay Miles's rent, but taking Miles's disability money that he was getting. And so when they tried to confront him about it, um, they see that Terry runs. But before they confront him about it, they see that Miles's eyes are bloodshot, and you know um, they are slightly swollen a little bit, and they see you know um, they see that in his throat there's a chemical burn. They come to find out that that he had been exposed to chlorine gas. How, they don't know, because even though Miles works on the pool at the apartment complex, um, that pool doesn't have the right pH level of chlorine to cause the reaction that you see on his eyes and in his throat. Um, and then like a day later, they find the body of um, a man named Leonard Thompson, who was a school teacher. And like a few days or like a week or so beforehand, he was suspended because um, a kid at a school that he taught at, um, he accused Leonard of physically assaulting him, and they were still under the he was still under investigation for what really happened. But Leonard has the same, you know, uh, he died of the same thing, chlorine gas. So they're trying to figure out how um, Miles is connected to Leonard. And the way Leonard was killed with chlorine gas is that he had a World War I gas filled artillery shell that he illegally got. Um, and apparently he had some other shells, grenades, and mines in his house. So they figure out, a little later, that both Leonard and Miles died of the same exact gas on the same exact afternoon / night. Um, so Harold goes to talk with the um, kid who accused Leonard of um, physically assaulting him, and he claims that he had nothing to do with it. Um, so Harrow gets this revelation of checking the store that Miles got his candy from, because Miles had a baggie of candy on him when they looked through his pockets at his initial autopsy. And so Harrow goes to the store called Brenda's Market, speak with the owner, looks at the video camera that is there, and sees that the younger brother of the kid who accused Leonard of assaulting him, or accused Leonard of physical assault. Um, Cooper, the little brother's name is Cooper, and he um, is seen talking to Leonard or Miles on the video camera. So Harrow goes to find Cooper, finds him, and Cooper explains that um, he was going to confront Leonard for what he supposedly did to his brother. Um, and he somehow convinced Miles to go with him. So he and Miles go to the house, um, and while in the house, and I didn't really particularly see this part either. Leonard or either Miles or Cooper pick up the artillery shell, and somehow Miles ends up with it, um, and he drops it, and which causes the crack uh, to to be created in the shell, and release the chlorine gas. So not only is Miles exposed to it, but Leonard is, and so Cooper manages to kind of carry uh, or help Miles get out of the house and go back to the apartment complex. And they end up by the pool, and then when Miles dies, Cooper pushes him into the pool. And the reason why he never said anything was because he wanted to go to jail. So he reveals that he's holding this rusted grenade from, I assume, World War One. Um, and Harrow convinces Cooper to give him the grenade so that he can throw it away, and it eventually, goes off. So that's the case of the week. Um, Now, as far as um, dealing with James and the longer term mystery, uh, Harrow is trying to get in touch with Fern, and she is refusing to pick up his phone calls. And I assume not replying to any of his text messages either. So Harold tries to go to Fern's house to see if she's there, or at least the house that she was living at. And nobody's there. And then the woman who from a few episodes back shows up again, claiming this time to look for Fern. Um, and then um, so eventually Max or Harrow ends up getting um, followed and escorted by two men that work with Max Zorch's mother um, to her apartment, and he finds out that Jane. He finds out that that Max's mother knows that James was in the shipyard when Max died, and she reveals to him that um, Max or James stole $22 million from her company. And all she really wants to know is the truth. Um, so he's then released, and while he's leaving, he's trying to call Fern again, only to get her voicemail once more. And I think it's this time he leaves a voicemail saying, "Look, I need you to to get back in touch with me so I can talk to your brother. Because I know where, basically he's like, I know you know where he is. Um, and, as Harrow's leaving, she's looking down at him and she's like, well, look, uh, I know he won't ever, because he's talking to this guy who works with him and, or worked with her. And he's like, well, he's never going to give up his son. And she's like, well, you know what? He will if it means choosing between his son and his daughter. Um, and more likely than not, he's going to pick his daughter because he at least can trust her. So, at the new place that they're now living at, um, you know, uh, she and Callan are unpacking, um, and she's Harold's calling again, and she's like he can't know about it because whoever like whoever wants to hurt James is gonna try to follow Harrow to here, um, and apparently a credit card that James applied for was sent to the old address that they were living at, and Fern offers to go get it, which Callan is upset about. And it's just like this entire episode, I'm like, he's like the only one besides maybe Nichols who has any damn sense. And it's like, I mean, because Harold's not thinking clearly, and Fern's not. So, so after both Fern and Callan leave the room, James is James gets into Fern's phone because he figured out her password and sends a text message to Nichols. We don't see this, but that's just what he does, and he's telling Nichols to meet her at her old house, um, and he does it. He sends the texts to meet her at like a specific time at like 9 or something like that, and she goes after that fact, but he's still there when she shows up, and so Nichols is like, goes to talk to her and all that, and as they're doing that, James hacks into Nichols' car to find out where his phone is, or at least what I thought was to find out where his phone is, but turns out he's just downloading like malware or spyware so that he can spy Nichols later on, um, and he's gone before Nichols goes back to the car. So Fern goes back to the house, confronts James about using her yet again when Kyle walks in, and James leaves, and he's like, look, you're cutting him way too much slack, which again is like, look, I mean, only one with some freaking sense here. So eventually, Harrow follows Callan to their new place, and speaks with James. And so he's like, I know about the money you stole, and um, eventually, we get the line of uh, James saying, well, I wouldn't put Fern in any trouble, and Harold's like, you already have, essentially, by, moving her in with you to another place. Um, and so or James says he didn't steal the money from Max's mother. Max did. Um, and I mean, it's awfully convenient for you to say that he's the one who stole it when you never brought up that to begin with. So it's like I'm thinking that Max and James both stole the money, and he killed Max so that he wouldn't have to share. And then he forgot couldn't get the phone out of the car either right away or at all. Um, and so that's why he's trying to get the phone back, because like there's a recording on there that would reveal that he actually killed Max and all that. But anyway, um, so James then goes to a secluded spot and starts spying on Nicholas's laptop. I think before he could actually hear or see anything, Nichols closes the laptop, and Nichols hears a voicemail Harold left on Fern's voicemail or phone asking to speak with her and her brother, and which disappoints Nichols. So that's pretty much uh, well, there's one little thing. Uh, Grace's ex-husband meets with her at her work to sign the divorce papers, because apparently they didn't actually sign them, and apparently the solicitor that he brought with him is actually his fiance. So I don't really like this whole continuing with uh, Grace and her ex-husband, or her still husband. I don't really like this. I mean, can you kind of? I'm not interested in it. Can you kind of just like put it to rest, please? Like put it to bed. Because it's like he doesn't have like I mean I don't really care, because it's like he's not even like sleeping with Harrow anymore. So why do I care about her soon to be ex-husband? Why do I fucking care? Like give me a reason to care. Like give me like if they were actually still together and actually in a relationship, like if she was in a relationship with Harrow still, and not just like a sexual relationship, I would understand, but I would care, and I would care more, but like I don't really care. So why should I care about her stupid ex-husband or soon to be ex-husband? Why do I care? I mean, because outside of sleeping with Harrow, there's no reason for me to care. So anyway, um, anyway, next on Harrow, Callan confronts James about how he doesn't really care about Fern, um, and Harold lets it slip to Fern that James stole the money, and she confronts him about it later in the episode. And so the next case of the week is with a woman named Gabriella, who uh, had a raspberry stuck in her throat, even though her husband claims that she wasn't allergic to them. So we'll see how that all plays out. Maybe he kills her, and because he's having an affair or something. I don't know. But now, since this is episode 6, where we have 4 more episodes left. Yeah, 4 more episodes left, and I don't know. I still feel like I'm feeling like this whole thing is becoming stagnant. I mean, I feel like we should be a little bit further along in this mystery than how and where we are. Um, so I'm not sure where we're going from here. I'm hoping maybe we'll see, Harold's ex-girlfriend that's supposedly the mother of James. I'm hoping we'll see her. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I mean, I just don't really care for James anymore, and I'm like, I kind of want this to be sped along a little bit. Um, Maybe that's just me being a little impatient, since this is a overarching mystery and all of that. So um, yeah, so I mean, we'll see. Like I said, I still think that Max or James isn't who he says he is. He's not really the Harrow's uh, son. He just knows of the child that Harrow may have had or did have with his ex-girlfriend, and he is trying to capitalize on, you know, getting out of trouble because clearly he knows Max or knew him, and he helped him get stuff illegally. And so, yeah, um, I just think that, he's not who he says he is. Um, and I mean, it'll all come out eventually, so hopefully. But that's really all I have for this episode. Bye.